Hi everyone, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. This is Melanie, and this is going to be the introduction for a number of videos as I go through my recent purchases. I dismantled a bunch of paper pads. These are just some of them. I've turned some into kits. Some have ended up in my stash, and basically this is going to be me going through the paper pads, showing you what page kits I came up with because some people have requested it. Rather than put them all into one large video, I think it'd be a bit much. I'm going to try and do basically one pad per video. Unless there's not much to show, then I may combine a couple. So without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, let's talk paper pads. I have 3 different ways that I'm going to deal with the paper pads. I have some that I'm going to keep intact entirely. I have some where I'm going to keep half intact and half I'm going to disperse. And then I have a whole bunch that I'm going to make some page kits and disperse the remaining throughout my stash. So let me clear off my desk and we'll go through each type and I'll explain why I do what I do. And we'll do a flip through of some of these pads so that you can see what's all in them. Okay, so I have 3 pads here that I'm going to keep intact. One is this Bloom Street from Paige Evans Pink Paisley. It's a project pad, and it really is like a kit. So it comes with colored cardstock, and then it also includes some pattern paper. This one here starts the pattern paper. It is one-sided, and there's not a ton, and there's no duplicates. There's no duplicates. Oh yeah, there is duplicate. There's one sheet that's duplicated. Looks like, yeah. So minimal duplication. And then there's some glitter cardstock, some more specialty paper, and an alphabet. So to me, this is kind of like a kit. So this is why I would keep this together. I also have another one from Indigo and Ivy. This is also from Pink Paisley. And again, it comes with solid cardstock and then some pattern paper. So to me, I will probably make a couple layouts out of each one of these as a kit, and then once I'm tired of it, I will take whatever's left over and split it in my stash. So that's how I'm treating those. The last one I have is this Park Lane Festive Florals, and this one here, well, it does have duplicates. I thought this would be a great addition to my mega kit for my South America cruise. That kit just keeps growing and growing and growing. But it's got like flamingos, it's got llamas, it's got, you know, a print that looks a little bit more an ethnic kind of print is what it looks like. Some pretty florals, some cactus, you know, so to me, this is something I think I'd be able to incorporate into that album. The colors are not that far off from my inspiration, which was the Pink Fresh Out and About collection, which is my jumping off point. Now, not all of these I probably wouldn't use, but at this point, there's not a ton of cardstock in here. It's only 24 sheets, and that is a pretty big project, so I'm okay with leaving everything intact. So this is just going to go in with that kit, and hopefully I'll use some of those pages up. Once that's done, whatever's left over will get dispersed in my stash. So those are the project pads that I'm going to leave as is. Let's talk about the next group. Okay, so I have 4 pads here, and these ones, they all have double sheets, so they have 2, or I think all of them have 2 sheets of each pattern. And what I will do is I will keep one set intact like a kit, and the other piece will get dispersed throughout my stash. So why did I choose these ones? So first of all, this Park Lane Land of the Free is a real Americana kind of feel to it. And while I live in the US, I am Canadian, and things like, you know, red, white, and blue are not quite as, you know, deep-rooted in who I am as, say, a native-born American. But I did spend some time in Washington, D.C. last year. I made a few trips, got to see some of the different memorials, statues, and stuff like that. And so I thought this would be fun to use for documenting those. Plus, of course, you know, we do still celebrate the 4th of July. I get that off, so why not document it with, you know, some red, white, and blue. But I don't need it to be all together. So for me, to make best use of this pad, not all of these scream, you know, 4th of July. So I can easily use this as a red sheet, even though the other side here includes all the states, which again, I could also use, but more for my travel album than necessarily as a patriotic kind of a paper. You know, and this is, you know, fireworks, but the other side is just a blue geometric. So rather than keep everything all together, like I said, I'm going to split this in half, and half will stay as kind of a patriotic and red, white, and blue kit, and the other half will go in my stash. I picked up this Jen Hadfield Warm and Cozy from Tuesday Morning. It's got a real earthy kind of, sorry for the glare, really earthy kind of look to it, and I bought this specifically because I thought I could use it for some of my outdoor trips, especially when I went to places like national parks like Yosemite and stuff. But it also does have a fall feel to it, and so I think for me it makes sense to have half of this in with my paper that I'm collecting for my national parks documenting, and then the rest I can disperse throughout my stash. So that is why I am keeping half of this one and putting half in my stash. Same applies with this Happy Camper, exactly the same reason. So if you look, oh, this one actually has quite a few solid papers. You know, it's got, this is embossed, some maps, it's got some plaid, and while I can use this for outdoorsy kind of layouts, I also think much of this I can use just for other layouts, so why have them all together? This is an actual piece of wood veneer, which is kind of cool. So what I will do with this one is all the specialty paper I will keep together, and then I'll take half of it and half of it along with the specialty paper, keep that together, and then the rest of it will go into my stash. So there was some vellum there. I don't know if you saw that. This is actually a really cool pad of paper. It's got a vellum map. This is a piece of denim, like it's actual fabric, which is really cool. And this is like a craft. This isn't like a craft cardstock. It's like real legitimate, you know, craft paper, like almost like what you would use for a paper bag. But see, something like this, you know, I could easily incorporate into, you know, an everyday kind of layout. So that is the Happy Camper. So half of this plus the specialty paper will become a kit, and then the other half will be added to my stash. This paper house pad called Field Study is another one which I will use for things like my national park layouts, that kind of thing. Again, it's got two of them. I'm not likely to use two within the same album or the same project. So it just makes sense for me to take these and move these someplace else. So again, I'm going to take half and include in my kit for outdoors national park stuff, and then the other half will be put into my stash. So you can see we're repeating patterns now. This is a really cool paper pad. It's different, kind of reminiscent in some ways of K & Company, which had a very unique kind of look to it. So it'll be interesting to use this. It's what caught my eye were the butterflies and some of these papers with the animals and stuff like that on there. So it'll be interesting to see how I use this. A lot of these have quotes and stuff on there, which I thought would be some great prompts to just do some stories as opposed to a specific trip or anything like that. And it comes with a sticker sheet. So that is the last pad for ones that I'm keeping half as a kit and the other half moving into my stash. So now let me show you the ones that I'm going to break apart completely. So I have, what do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pads. Let's start with the most obvious one. I bought this at Tuesday Morning the other day and I already had this paper pad. So I already have this one stored as a collection or as a kit. There's no need for me to have two. So this one is going to be completely dismantled and put into my stash. So this Indigo Craft and Rose Gold is beautiful. Let me just flip through it here so you can see. It's got this rose gold foiling on it. Some cut aparts, arrows. Look at that blue wood grain. Isn't that gorgeous? Here's some more foil. Floral. So if you look at these, you'll see there's not a ton of 12 by 12 cardstock that's multicolored. There's really only a couple sheets, and I always use those multicolored as kind of jumping off points. So you've got the arrows and you've got the flowers, and that's really the only paper besides, well, plus I guess if you want to count the cut aparts. Where are they? But even those really aren't multicolored. There is a lot of foiling in here, and I tend to use that a little bit sparingly. Like, I don't think I would ever use a full 12 by 12 sheet of it. So it just makes sense for me, in this case, to break this up and use them as individual papers. This is Die Cuts with a View Perry and Peach. So it's got a periwinkle and peach, and it's basically the same idea. The colors in here are very, like, while they look nice together, there's really not a ton of 12 by 12 paper that have both of those colors in them that I would use as a jumping off point. You can see everything so far has been monochromatic with some foil. So this page does have that, and this one does too. And so I may create like a page kit out of these, you know, maybe a couple page kits, but really that's probably about all I would do. For me, it just makes more sense to have this in my stash as individual sheets of paper than tied up in a paper collection or a paper pad. I hope that makes sense, right? It just doesn't seem intuitive to me to, you know, make layouts from this as it is together. I want something a little bit more exciting or interesting to go with it. Now that sounds bad. I love the paper. It's really pretty, but to me, these are more supporting papers than necessarily something that I'm going to jump off of. The last one I have that's a similar idea is also from Die Cuts with a View. It's called Blush. Half the sheets are with gold foil. So this one should really, you know, illustrate my point. I mean, it's monochromatic, which you can do monochromatic layouts. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just know myself, and I'd much rather have something with some more contrast as a general rule of thumb. So this will get broken up and then just put in my stash. Lots of foil. Again, to me, like 2 sheets of foil in one kit just is too much. But I would use it if it was spread out a little bit more. So just very usable paper. Well, that's a little overboard, but you know, a strip of this might look kind of cool. Very usable paper, like this would make a fantastic background, but more again in a supporting role. I guess that's my point, is that I consider this a supporting pad of paper instead of a inspiring pad of paper. Again, very pretty, usable designs. But the foil, there is a lot of foil. A lot of foil. The last 3 pads. So these last three I will make page kits from, and then whatever is left is going to be dispersed into my stash. For a lot of the same reasons that I said for the other ones, although in these ones I do find some papers a little more inspiring, hence the page kits. But I don't find as a whole that there's a ton here that I would use as a collection. I think I would run out of some cardstock really quick that would unify it. So it just makes more sense for me to have these in my stash instead of tied up in a pad of paper. And you'll notice a common thread in my logic is that there's usually not a ton of multicolored paper. This is one I could use as an inspiration for sure. But like something like this, I wouldn't jump off of. To me, this is just a supporting piece of paper. Even something like this, it's very bold and graphic, but it's only 2 colors, and I don't know that I would use this as a jumping off point. You'll see there's a lot of papers that don't even have any orange in them, but then there's a lot of orange that support, you know, in the pad. So as a whole, I like a lot of the papers, but I think it just makes sense to split it up. This is really pretty. This would make a really fun beach page, I think. There is a cut apart here that has a little bit of all the different patterns. That might be a good jumping off point. I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll see. See what I come up with when I actually start breaking these down. Some wood grain. Lots of great solids. I call these solids even though they're not. To me, they read solid. Like this reads blue. And this reads pink, even though it is tone on tone. So this one will be made into page kits as well as moved into my stash. This is another one. It is also from Die Cuts with a View. It's Country Floral. There are 12 sheets that come with silver foil instead of gold, which is kind of nice. Again, some of these I love as pages or as I love as inspiration, but a lot of these I just think would be better off in my stash. So that is why I'm going that route. Like I could use this as a page kitter. I could use this as a kit starter. You know, add this paper, and maybe if there's a yellow, I think there was a yellow back here, you know, that might be kind of fun. Although this reads, it's not my favorite. You know, so I just gotta play around and, oh, that might be pretty. Play around with these and put some of these into kits. And like I said, whatever's left over will end up in my stash. This one here too has a very strong reminiscent feel of the Kane Company paper pads. Does have some beautiful wood grain though. Fun. This is one of those silver foils. And something like this just isn't really my cup of tea really. It's, but the back side I could definitely use. So, page kits from this one. And then the rest in my stash. This is from Heidi Swapp Color Fresh. Again, I know this was designed and designed as a collection, and the colors, you know, repeat itself. I just don't think I would use very many of these together on a layout. So for instance, this one has stripes, but that's a stripe too. I wouldn't use those two together. But this would make a really good kit starter. No problems there. But see, here's another stripe. There's just too many stripes. I know, that's hard to believe. Too many stripes. But some of these other ones would be great. Like this would be a great background page. So if there is something in here that I think would make a good page kit, I will definitely put them together to create those. And then the rest of it is just going to end up in my stash. and then we just repeat. Oh, maybe we don't. This one. Tigers. I don't know what I'm going to do with tigers. Maybe a zoo picture or something. Sometimes I wonder what people were thinking when they designed these. More llamas. Too bad I didn't see any llamas on my South American trip, because that would have been a good use of them. Okay, so that is Color Fresh. And the last one I want to share with you is another die cut with a view. This is Botanical Beauty 12 sheets with gold foil. So again, very similar to the other one I showed you earlier in that it's got a floral theme to it. But to me, it doesn't read as a kit, but there are some that would work really well together. So I will put some page kits together and we'll go from there. Well, these are very busy papers, like very busy papers. I like these like vintage cards and stuff. They're kind of fun. So I do have an album that it's another picture book album similar to the travel one that I mentioned a while back. I do have one just for pictures of florals or flowers and stuff that I've taken, and so I would probably use something like this to highlight those pictures in the album, just because it makes sense, floral and floral. Okay, so those are the paper pads that I have. What I'm going to do with them, I'm going to start working on dismantling, and if I do put any page kits together, which I'm going to put some page kits together, I will come back and show you what I combined, and we'll go from there.